Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first Thursday of the month, which means it's Biomimicry Live online time. We've got a very special edition for tonight, episode 6, where Sue and I are going to talk about the journey of the last 11 months to finally finishing the Biomimicry Online course. We're going to talk about our amazing big Biomimicry sale, our flash sale for the next 24 hours. Sue, good evening. Welcome. How are you?
Evening, Roger. Very well, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, good. So how does it feel? It's been 11 months since we sort of started talking, designing, tweaking, working out, all of hard work that you've put into building this course. How does it feel now that it's finally come to an end?
Yeah, I feel like I'm about 10 kgs lighter, but the reality is I'm 10 kgs heavier. But anyway, no, it's great. Yeah, no, it's super to have, that it finally all came together, and that it was a wonderful journey of growth for me as well, just working out exactly what it was that I wanted to put across in that. And yeah, it's been awesome. And I'm really grateful to you, Rod, for having approached me in the first place. It's been terrific. Hard work, but great.
Definitely hard work, but I can say the finished product looks amazing. You've done such a good job. We've both worked so hard behind the scenes to pull this together. And one of the reasons we're talking about this to everyone out there listening is that, we've now finished the 6 modules of Sue's Biomimicry Online course. So we're up to a kind of completion point now, but because it's a dynamic course, there's going to be, little additions every now and again. We might tweak things every now and again and update things. That's the beauty of the way we've designed it. But for now, it's come up to a really nice point, 6 fantastic modules. Tonight, we're going to speak about one of the modules as it's episode 6. So we're going to speak about a couple of topics. But what I wanted to start off by saying to everyone is that for the next 24 hours until 6 p.m. GMT or 8 p.m. in South Africa, tomorrow, for the next 24 hours, we've got a big Biomimicry flash sale going on. So all modules are only £15 and even discounted even more if you're a South African member. So if you are watching from South Africa, make sure you sign up for an expeditionproject.com account, and just tell us that you're a South African resident. We'll add a South African membership plan to you, and you'll get a whole host of discounts, and one of those will be 50% off Sue's amazing Biomimicry Online courses. So make sure you do that. But even if you don't, get any of those special discounts, or if you're not South African, it's still an amazing deal at the moment for the next 24 hours. Make the most of it. It really is a fantastic course, an eye-opening course. Sue, anything to add on that so far?
No, I think you've covered it perfectly, as you always do. You're so consummate at this.
I tell you what, it doesn't always feel like it, but okay, so let's dive into the first topic. So we're talking about one of the modules tonight, and I've broken it down into sort of 3 little subsections. So the first section is all about remembering who we are. So it's an important section in the module in question. I don't know if you want to do a little bit of an intro, or shall I dive straight into the little video for that?
I think maybe dive into the video and then we can take it from there.
Okay, let's have a look. Check this out.
So this idea of being separate from nature is really something rather illogical. Sure, we're a unique species, but as is each and every one of these. But we're all part of this collective of living beings living on Earth. Our interconnectedness is really indisputable. And another fascinating fact, though, is that as humans, we actually have more microbial cells in our human bodies than we have human cells. Our body is an ecosystem that is home to trillions of microbes. It's like we're a composite species, and it's that relationship that exists between the microbial cells and the human cells that is actually what is keeping us alive and well. We couldn't survive, we couldn't exist as a species or as an individual without those microbes. And they thrive within us. And because of us, we're providing their ecosystem. So that's something really to chew on. That takes interdependence to a whole new level.
So a little taster there from one of the lessons in module 3, which is all about sort of remembering who we are. So Sue, we've got a question that's actually come in from Cynthia. Let me just pop it up. Fantastic question, actually. Let's start off with this. I think it'll be a good starting point. So she says, we commit to planting trees, perhaps to feel good or to distract, and at the same time, we destroy forests and ecosystems that take millions of years to form. Trees don't need to be planted. They existed long before us. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great question and presents a lot of food for thought. My response to that would be that if we are to truly fit in and belong, I think we do need to become the species that actually contributes. I couldn't agree 100% that we shouldn't be cutting down the forests and destroying the ecosystems. That's first up, we have to stop that. But the problem is that, we have brought about such destruction because we have machines that can dig deeper, further, and faster than the Earth has ever experienced before. And so I think we actually do have to step in and assist in the recovery of those places where we have gone in and destroyed. So first, on this side, we absolutely have to stop doing what we're doing. But on this side, I think we do need to become a keystone regenerative species that is helping to contribute. I think she made this, it's a really valuable point about, trees have been here a long time before us. They don't need to be planted. They can self-generate and all of that. Yes, of course they are. They're capable of doing that. Again, it's just the rate at which we're causing such destruction, I think is problematic. But also, just going in ad hoc and planting trees anywhere and everywhere is also not the solution. We need to try and respect and honor the complexity that exists in forests and things like that, and to try and learn how we can replicate that rather. You can't replicate a forest by only growing trees, because the forest is made up of trees and shrubs and a diversity of tall growing trees, lower growing trees, the whole works, mosses, ferns, you name it.
Such an interconnected system.
Yeah. So I don't know if that,
No, that's fantastic. I just thought it was such a nice comment, comment/question from her. And I think, it's so relevant, everything that's happening right now with this course, what's happening at COP26 in Glasgow, with, elements of the world starting to open up to certain things. And I almost feel you should have had a slot at COP26 just to try and, open some people's eyes and everything like that about, it's taking a step back. And just like you said, everything's been around long before us, to be honest. So to think that we can just suddenly click our fingers and solve every problem is very naive, isn't it? And a little bit arrogant, to be honest, because, the system was perfect that we were born into. It's a self-regulating system that nature has managed herself fantastically well for 3.8 billion years. So to think that we can come along with basically a toddler's understanding and manage her is not on. We just need to learn to manage ourselves, really. So just out to anyone, if you've got any questions, feel free to type them in the comments or the reply section, under this video. Send in your any questions, comments, anything like that. If you're watching this on replay, feel free to still post your comments, because Sue or I can get back to you afterwards. When you do start to do the modules and go through the lessons, there's also a place in each lesson to make your own comments, and also actually submit some of your suggestions and your discoveries along the way, because a lot of what we're trying to achieve with this is not just a one-way directed learning. It's that whole sort of hybrid thing where we want to have this two-way discussion. We want to build the community. That's why, we wanted to design these courses as being quite dynamic, having some live streams every now and again, giving you your own time and space to actually undertake the courses on demand and not feel rushed to get through a certain section by a certain time. So they've been designed with a lot of that in mind. So please do, send any comments, any thoughts in these live streams or while you're doing the modules. Shall we move on to the next little talking point for tonight, which is all about changing perceptions. Let's have a look at a video, and then we can have a little chat about this, shall we?
And an egocentric mindset became our worldview, where we see ourselves as top dogs, superior to and masters over nature, the only one with intrinsic value and the right to life, and that the value of all others beneath us hinges entirely on their perceived benefits to us, and that furthermore anything is justified in our acquiring those perceived benefits. The consequences of us being up at the top of a pyramid and living like we do don't seem to have sunk in, or we're denying them. But the reality is that any block that disappears from underneath us will have us toppling, and we have the furthest to fall. Another reality is that if you're part of an interdependent system, whether you acknowledge you're part of it or not doesn't alter the facts, and you think you're the only one that matters, where you simply take, you don't contribute in any way other than to be destructive, you're effectively making yourself obsolete. Because you're not needed in the system, you're giving nothing. And if all you do is harm others, you're also not going to be wanted. And the third reality is the only block that can be removed from this pyramid and it will remain intact and functioning is that top block.
So another little snippet from module 3. I'm really having issues saying 3 tonight. Module 3 and the changing perception section of that. And it's such a fascinating concept how we came to find ourselves at the top of that, that little pyramid. When I suppose it wasn't always the case, isn't it? You know, when we came about, we definitely weren't at the top of the pyramid, but we got there eventually, didn't we?
Well, in our minds, we did, yes. Yeah. And
exactly.
We took ourselves on a journey of separating ourselves and placing ourselves up top there. But I think, really important is to understand the need to shift those kind of perceptions. If we're going to bring about the changes that are needed, we have to address those very key factors such as that egocentric mindset or human-centered mindset. We speak about shifting from egocentric to ecocentric or from human-centered to life-centered. And that's a really important part of everything.
So let's have a little look at a question here. Can you, it's quite a tricky one, but can you give us some examples of sort of changing perceptions, maybe in some of the experiences that you've come across?
Well, I think changing the perception is quite literally about viewing nature differently. So in biomimicry, what happened is we seemed at some stage in our human development, earliest cultures always considered nature, referred to nature as Mother Nature. Now that didn't just fall from the sky. That was something we were born with, that understanding. But after a number of revolutions that we went through, from the agricultural to the scientific and the industrial, that perception shifted. With the scientific revolution, suddenly overnight, nature was declared kind of just this dead assembly of atoms. And reverence for the earth was actually considered obsolete, if not pagan. And that has really resulted in many of the problems we're looking at. And it shifted also with the industrial to us starting to objectify nature and consider nature only this like warehouse of resources that exists for us to extract from it. So I think one of the changes in our perception is to start understanding, but hang on, that's not what it exists. Nature does not exist to serve us. In fact, nature exists to serve life, and we need to learn that concept of being part of life. We need to understand that. So in biomimicry, one of the terms that's used is shifting from considering nature this warehouse of resources to considering it a library of solutions. So that's very much in the design and innovation space, which is a beautiful term. Often people's faces light up when you speak about that.
And one of them, definitely love that term.
Yeah, absolutely. One needs to just be cautious, because are we not simply valuing nature again for what we can get from her, in this case, solutions for innovation? It might mean we are less destructive in our dealing with, but we haven't really shifted that relationship. And then with biomimicry as a way of being, we start shifting it to looking at considering nature this living guide to thriving on Earth. But we can go beyond that into really establishing relationship again.
Does it not feel like we're almost the odd one out on the planet?
We're certainly the odd one out in how we're behaving. I mean, how we behave is diametrically opposed to how the rest of life on Earth behaves. Okay, but it wasn't always the case. It's these revolutions that we've gone on that have resulted in us being the only species on this planet that generates, for instance, unusable waste. There's no such thing as waste in nature. All waste is food for something else. And I could list about another 10 things that we do that is, the complete opposite to how nature does things. But in terms of, it's only in our behavior and in how we think of things intellectually that we're the odd one out. Physiologically, we absolutely belong on this planet. Our bodies are perfectly adapted to the Earth's operating conditions and our planetary home. You saw there that we've got more microbial cells in our human bodies than we have human cells. We're a composite species. So, it's just, if we can just take that understanding and now apply it to how we behave and how we relate to and with the rest of life on Earth, things would change radically. And again, it's actually going back to that, Roger. Sorry, it's, I can't express enough that biomimicry is actually an ancient practice, as in learning from and emulating nature. All ancient cultures just do it inherently.
And we've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's something that probably came a lot more naturally to us than it is now, as we've slowly been removed from that system or that, that formula that we were part of at one point. But an interesting thing that I remembered hearing not so long ago, that rubbish bins, like on the side of the road, only actually came about in the 50s or the 60s, I think. Interestingly, there wasn't a lot of waste that we actually had. If people took their lunch to work, they would take it and bring the container back and bring their knife and fork back or whatever. Before that, there wasn't this disposable thing. There wasn't this load amount of waste. There wasn't, plastic had only just started to come about. So it is incredible how that's just suddenly switched, and now it's just this massive disposable society. And as you were saying before, where there is no waste in nature, but now we're creating more waste in the last 100 years than we've ever created.
And I mean, if we look at the Earth's development of 4.5 billion years, and life's been around for 3.8 billion years. So if you looked at that as a single calendar year, with January the 1st being 4.5 billion years ago and December the 31st being tonight, and we're like 1 second before the stroke of midnight. Life appeared on February the 25th. We appeared 24 minutes ago. But the Industrial Revolution was only 2 seconds ago. And the petrochemical revolution, which has resulted in this consumeristic throwaway society, was most probably only 1 second ago. Don't quote me on that one. But, so in terms of geological timeframes, we need to understand the speed and rapidity with which we have created this craziness. But it also gives us hope that we can really address this and start looking at things differently. We do not have to be defined by how we are currently behaving.
Now, before I move on to part 3 about reconnecting with self, just to quickly touch on, you speak a little bit about in this lesson about Einstein. Do you want to just briefly elaborate on one of his quotes?
I actually quoting quite a bit. That one most probably we cannot solve the significant problems we're facing with the same level of thinking we used to create them. I think I'm paraphrasing him there.
No, that's about right.
But yeah, that's most probably it. That yes, a serious change in our thinking has to come about in order to change our behavior.
Okay, so let's move on to part 3 now of this section, all sort of still talking about module 3. And let's have a little snippet from one of the lessons on reconnecting with self. Check this out.
Reconnecting is really about addressing the disconnects we have with our planet, the disconnect with life out there, and the disconnect we have with ourselves. As earth-based living sensory beings, we've simply lost touch. And for purpose of this module, we're going to focus on reconnecting with self. And the reason for this is expressed beautifully in these words by Andy Goldsworthy, who says, "We often forget that we are nature. Nature is not something separate from us. So when we say that we have lost our connection to nature, we have lost our connection to ourselves."
We are nature. Fantastic. Another great quote.
Indeed. And that's the absolute reality. We are nature. We're a unique species, but as the point was made, so is every other living species out there is a unique species. But we're part and parcel of the animal kingdom. And learning to accept that and embrace that and celebrate that, I think, is really important.
So I suppose, once again, going back to your experience, unless you've heard of other light bulb moments, but has the whole reconnecting with self thing, for you or for others that you've heard of, has it been gradual? Is it like just suddenly click and then all of a sudden a lot more makes sense? Do you have to keep reminding yourself of it? How natural is the kind of the reconnecting bit?
I think it's most probably a very individual and personal thing, and depends on one's individual circumstance, maybe the line of work you're in, how much you are naturally exposed to the natural world, how much you are disconnected from it. I think certainly one can have light bulb moments, but that can just be the thing that changes your thinking. And from there, though, it does require constant working at it, because we're all under pressure. You're all faced with maybe some level of financial constraints or whatever. So there are constantly little things that keep bombarding us and that serve to disconnect. So what's really important to reconnect is to be doing it consciously and mindfully. It's learning to be in the moment. And I think learning to take time to notice the little things as well. That's really important. But from personal experience, I have had various light bulb moments, but it's always been part of a journey, actually. So it's a light bulb that you get this rush of insight and understanding, and you feel like you can fly, and you do come back down to earth because gravity does suck. So that's and you're back down there, and then you're thinking, did I experience that? But so it does take work, but it's absolutely wonderful. And the more you consciously and mindfully embrace reconnecting, the more those kind of light bulb moments and insights and things start to come through. And funny enough, I find a lot of my work that happens on my own personal growth happens when I'm asleep. So I wake up in the middle of the night with having solved the problem of how am I going to approach this module, and I've tried and I've worked at it and slogged and just know it hasn't been working. And then I sleep on it for a night, and then suddenly you wake up. So I think that reconnecting with self is also allowing intuition and your inner voice to come through. We've really lost connections with that, from simple things like, Rod, I don't think people know how to tell direction anymore. We're so, hooked onto these GPS things. Meanwhile, we have our own innate GPS. And I really do think one of the problems is that we're devolving as a species if we continue to become so dependent on technology for things that we should actually be still doing ourselves. That's my personal opinion. I must probably have the techies jump up and down on top of me.
No, definitely. And you can see so many of those examples all around. And it's just, I know, definitely. And let's hope now, with everything that's happened over the last couple of years, and governments, businesses maybe starting, to get to grips with things in working towards better ways of operating and all of that, I guess we can only but hope there's going to be a little bit of a shift over the next 10 years at least. I definitely think from a young person growing up, they seem to be much more aware of these things, even though they're immersed and surrounded by technology and surrounded by loads of things that would have been different, when we were, young or something like that. But it definitely seemed to be more open and aware to the issues we're facing and what potentially could be the solutions. And I just wish that a topic like biomimicry, or I suppose more in the engineering side of things, could be pushed more for people to study and want to get involved in, because what an exciting career to get into when you're starting out a new career, because there's so much potential with it.
Oh no, it's astronomical, the amount of potential. But I do again think that if anyone approaching biomimicry, as it is sold to anyone who's doing biomimicry seriously, speaks about the ethos, and getting to grips with the ethos is the first thing one has to do before you start then the learning from and the emulating, because that ethos is what really changes one's relationship, and where you no longer think, well, what is it I can get from nature, as opposed to, how can I work with and contribute to the well-being of life on Earth through the technology, through the innovations that we're coming up with, that we're not only focused on meeting our own needs, but in meeting our own needs, we're simultaneously contributing to the wellness of the planet as a whole, because that's what every other species is doing.
Yeah. And I think you've summed it up so nicely, just taking that step back. And if those of you out there start to tackle these modules, it progresses so nicely from, starting off with some of the basics, taking a step back to look at some of the world around us, and then diving into some fantastic topics, as we've been discussing tonight. So do take advantage of this. Just a reminder, we have a 24-hour sale that's going on between now and 6 p.m. GMT or 8 p.m. South African time tomorrow. All modules are only £15, which is a massive, massive discount, and discounted even further for South African members. So if you are a South African resident, make sure you sign up for an Expedition Project account. Once that's been approved, then you will be able to get not just biomimicry really, much cheaper for local rates, but you also get a whole host of other things really inexpensively. So really do take advantage of that. Either way, it's a great 24-hour sale happening now. Make sure you take advantage of that. Sue, I think just to sum us up, as always, what do you think can be a sort of a final takeaway from the sort of remembering and reconnecting sections we've been talking about tonight?
I think, let's get down to basics and start reconnecting by disconnecting. So removing yourself from behind laptops and actually getting out there, and, maybe making yourself a journal, a Nature Connect journal, a Reconnect journal, or whatever. You don't have to go out and buy an expensive journal, because believe you me, if I can make this, anyone can make it. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
Oops, I'm going back. It's an old paper bag that I cut up with paper, a twig. You need a punch and an elastic band, and amazing. Voila, you've got that. So really reusing what I have, and that goes with me now everywhere. Mm-hmm. And just for reminding me to capture moments. And just the insights, and so please get out there and reconnect.
No, definitely. I think one of the things that helped me is I started to jot down some of the feelings and the things I wanted to do better and achieve more of from all of this that we've been talking about, and sort of jumped ahead a little bit and then took a step back to kind of get a sense of, okay, how am I going to do that, and what little things can I do change from a day-to-day thing, from week to week, month to month, year to year. So I almost jumped forward and then jumped back, if that made sense.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things in the course is learning to zoom out and zoom in and all of that, and jumping forwards and going back and reassessing, because what happens is the more you immerse yourself into the course and the modules and the insights and allow them to percolate within you, you need to actually go back to those modules, and there'll be something else that suddenly comes up and starts making sense, something that maybe didn't quite resonate with you when you first heard it, then suddenly makes sense, 3 months down the line, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Fantastic, Sue. I mean, that's it. That's all the time we've got, but absolutely amazing speaking to you as always. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to everyone, 24-hour sale. Take advantage of that. Even further discounted for South African residents. So please go and check that out. expeditionproject.com/biomimicry online. 6 modules, 6 amazing modules. You can do it in your own time. It's all sort of on-demand stuff. There's no end date when you have to finish anything. Once you've got an account, once you've bought it, as long as your account is still active, you can have access to the stuff, which is amazing. Keep communicating with us. Send us your questions. Send us your comments. Let's build the community. Let's keep talking about it. Next live stream will be in December. I cannot believe it's December almost already. But yeah, so the next live stream is going to be in December. A little bit late for you because of the time difference now between the UK and South Africa. But yeah, looking forward to speaking to you all then. Thank you so much once again. Sue, thank you as always. Any final words from you?
Well, just to thank you, Roger, also for all your hard work behind the scenes. My goodness, this course would never have made the light of day without your input. So thanks for that. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. And I hope that everyone who does, buy into the course enjoys it as much as I enjoyed putting it together. So thanks very much, and cheers.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sue. Thank you, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye.